Hello people of YouTube, it's Deepak here and welcome to DCS World 1.5 and Bell Simtech's Mi8 module. Today I'm going to take you through the procedures for employing the grenade launchers, guns and rockets on the Mi8. You can see here that I have all of the above mentioned pods attached at the same time. Quite an impressive feat and something that the Mi8 is probably fairly unique in being able to do. Working outwards from the outermost to the innermost pods, we have attached here two GUV 8700 pods on the outermost pylons. This particular configuration of the pod, because there are two available, is called 9-A-800, and this contains an AP30 grenade launcher. Single grenade launcher in each pod, giving us two grenade launchers. Thank you, Russian Air Force, for your amazing naming schemes, by the way. If we go one further in, so the middle two pods, again these are GUV 8700 pods, but this particular configuration is called 9-A-624/622. Now, as you can see, this particular pod has a variety of guns installed. In the middle, you've got a single YakB 12.7mm 4-barrel Gatling machine gun, which is pretty hardcore. 12.7mm, that's effectively what the Americans would call 50 caliber, so that's pretty heavy. Then the two outer guns on each pod are two GShG 7.62mm 4-barrel Gatling machine guns. That's the kind of caliber that well, maybe not a light machine gun, I guess a machine gun actually, yeah, so an infantry machine gun would fire that kind of caliber in most cases. So that's still pretty hard hitting. You're very good against troops and soft-skinned vehicles, I'd imagine, but you'd want to make use of the 12.7mm for the bigger stuff. 12.7mm will probably go through light armour, I would imagine. But these gun pods, by the way, just one thing to note, you can only fire one of the gun systems at a time. So you have a switch that allows you to fire either the 6.72mm guns or the 12.7mm gun. You can't fire them all at once. And if we move to the innermost pods there, we're carrying the B8 rocket pods. Nice and simple. I believe these are the ones that have 32 rockets in them. So that's us. We're fully set up. I'm just going to unpause. We should now find ourselves in active pause, and we're going to go ahead and configure the system for use. What we're going to do first is we're initially just going to fire the rockets. So the very first thing that we have to do whenever making use of the weapons in the Mi8 is make sure that our circuit breakers for the weapon systems are all in the up positions. Actually, normally this weapons system main switch would be off, so yeah, the next thing you do is turn that on, and it will display illuminated lights letting you know which pylons, or racks as it's calling them here, are actually occupied. So the next thing for us to do, now that we've got the system powered, is if we jump over to the pilot navigator seat and take a little look at the armament panel here. There are two positions on the pod variant switch that we're going to use. Current position would allow us to fire the rockets, and then when we go to fire the guns, we move it to gun. But for now, we're going to leave it in pod variant number 1 position. And then, if we jump back over to the pilot commander and take a look at his rocket fire control panel, you've got two switches at the top here which are of interest. The first one, this one here, is controlling your burst length on the rockets. You can have 4, 8 or 16. We're going to go for 8 today. And then you can also control which pods you're firing from. You can fire from pylons, or racks as the Mi8 seems to call them. You can fire from 1 and 2 and 5 and 6, which are the outer ones, or you can fire from just 3 and 4, which are the inner ones, or if you leave it in the automatic position, it will kind of determine automatically. In our case, we only have rocket pods on racks 3 and 4 in any case, so we can just leave it on automatic and nothing bad will happen. And then we need to make sure that this switch here, the one that has UPK, PKT and RKT settings, needs to be in rocket RKT. And that's us, we're ready to go. And with all those systems powered, we get our gun sight illuminated as well. We probably want to set our gun sight up for the kind of range we're going to be firing at. Just now it's at about 700 meters. Actually, for just now, that's probably fine. So we are basically live. The last thing that we would do is when we get close to the targets, we would flip the safety switcher up here into the armed position and we get a red light. Actually, I'm just going to leave that in that position for now because we're basically ready to go. So, without further ado, let's go and unleash some rockets. Let me see if I can remember the keyboard command for removing active pause. There we go, that's us. Up ahead we have a firing range which I'm going to engage with and fire some rockets. Let's see if we can get some hits. So with the correct range set and all of those switches in the correct position, all you should really have to do is put your gun sight over the target and pull the trigger. Try and get it nice and stable. Okay, that's my first shot. That's quite far outside of the target. Let's try harder. Try and get another one. There. There we go. Now, something to note is that you have to hold down your gun trigger while you're firing the rockets. It seems to use... I don't exactly know how it operates, but it's almost like it's using a kind of rotating circuit breakery style thing. So you have to be holding it the whole time, and what will happen is that if you don't hold it down for the full cycle, you'll only get some of the rockets off, and then you won't be able to launch those rockets until it rotates all the way back round to those kind of circuit positions again, if that makes any sense. So I've fired 2 bursts of, what was that, 8, so that's 16 rockets away. I should now be able to do that 2 more times, and then actually I've got part of one of my cycles left behind, so if I keep pressing the trigger I'll eventually launch them again. So we can get the kind of hung rockets to launch, but it's worth mentioning that you do want to hold the trigger down. So let's try this again against the same target. Ah, see, there you go, I only got 2 off. Oh, and there we go. That's the remainder of the other cycle that I missed. So yeah, hold the trigger. Ladles and jelly spoons, and there's a single rocket going off. So yeah, I think that's actually, as I understand it, that's quite accurate. That's kind of the way that the Mi8 works. Its rocket launchers are sort of electromechanical almost. So that's the rockets dispensed with. Let's pop ourselves back into active pause, and let's set the aircraft up to fire the guns. That's the next exciting thing. So if I go back up to the pod variant switch, I need to pop that into gun position. That will now enable the gun pods. And then in the control panel up here, we need to make sure that, again, the switch is in rocket. We then have a selector here which will control which system we're going to employ. So we have the choice of, if I switch it to 800 out for outer, that will give us the grenade launchers. If I switch it to 622, that's going to give us the 7.62 machine gun. And if I flip it to 624 here, that's going to give us the 12.7mm machine gun, so the heavy caliber one. So I'm going to leave it in that position just now. So with the switch in 624 and the pod variant switch in gun, we should now get the heavy machine guns. Let's just remove the active pause, make sure that's the case. Yep, that's the heavy stuff. You got green tracer on those, so it's easy to tell the difference. So let's go and employ these for a little bit. It's something else to note actually, let me just pause very quickly. You see that you get a red light up here, and you've got a rounds remaining counter. So that's how you can tell how much you've got left of the 12.7mm. 12.7mm is shown on the middle counter, the left hand counter is showing your 7.62, and the right hand counter is showing your grenade launcher. Okie dokie, so let's bring her around and have another go at that target, this time with 12.7mm machine gun rounds. Okay, let's go. A lot of ricochets. This is heavy caliber stuff, so this should deal with anything up to sort of light armour quite happily. So this is me controlling my burst length, by the way, by hand, just by how long I'm holding down the trigger for. The system actually does have a burst length control, where it will enforce a particular burst length. So let me just demonstrate that very quickly. If I pop myself back into active pause, you'll see here that you've got a cutoff switch. If I turn it to on, and I set this burst length control, let's set it on 0.4 of a second, 400 milliseconds. If I now take off active pause and I push and hold the trigger, there we go. So it enforces a set burst length. If I very quickly whip that down to 0.2, that should be a shorter burst, although it didn't feel much different. Let's pop it up to 0.95. Huh. So I'm obviously not understanding this this selector at all. Okay, so 0.95 is a shorter burst, 0.4 is a longer one. 0.2? Okay, I'm confused. Yeah, I'm confused as to how that works exactly, actually, but I've run out of ammo, so there you go. Okay, yes, the burst length selector seems to be a little confusing. I would not use it. So, let's flip this back into the 622 position. That's then going to give us access to the 7.62 lighter machine guns. But of course you have more of them. With this configuration, you're actually firing 4 of these guns at once. Just look at that. It's a really heavy volume of fire there. Destroying the Georgian countryside with this stuff. So these are really only for unarmoured, soft-skinned vehicles and infantry. But the rate of fire is very impressive, and you know it's going to do a lot of damage very quickly, I would imagine. Quite a lot of vibration through the airframe as well when you're firing these. And the frame rate takes a little bit of a hit, but I guess we can forgive that. It's dealing with a lot of explosion and ricochet effects there. Okay, so let's active pause one last time and go to our final weapon type. If we pop this into the 800 position, we will then be firing our grenade launchers. Now, these are sort of an area effect weapon. They do disperse quite a lot, but against unarmoured, soft-skinned targets and infantry, they will do a very nice job indeed. So, watch this. Yes, check that out. They're kind of landing all over the place. They're quite slow projectiles. They're 30mm grenades. And you can hold the trigger down for quite a long burst, and just look at that. So if you're attacking formations of infantry, that's going to be quite effective, I would say. There we go. Yes, it's kind of all over the place, but yes, it's a very nice area effect weapon. So that pretty much covers it for these close air support weapon types in the Mi8. Let me just pop this back into active pause so I can very quickly go over the procedure again. So starting from the beginning, you want to make sure your circuit breakers on the weapon side of the panel are all turned on. Your master switch is turned on. You want to make sure that your pod type selector over here is either in gun or pod type 1, depending on whether you want to fire rockets or guns. If it's in the gun position, you select which system using this multi-position switch. So you've got 800 is for grenades, 622 is for the 7.62mm machine guns, and 624 is for the 12.7mm machine guns. And then over here, you've got your safety switch. You want to have that in the on position, and that's you ready to fire. And if you want to adjust the range on your gun reticle, you can do that right here. I was leaving it on 700 meters. So, I hope that was useful. I hope you all enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time.